Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Streamed and Screened, an entertainment podcast about movies and TV from Lee Enterprises. I'm Terry Lipschutz, a senior producer at Lee and co-host of the program with my entertainment journalism father figure, Bruce
There
Miller.
you go.
Editor of the Sioux City Journal and a longtime entertainment reporter. Hey, Papa, how are you?
Well, the old timers ready to talk to you. Yeah, you know what? I've seen so much and been around so long that you can drop a name and I think I can grab it. I think it's that easy.
Yep.
And I got to tell you, even though we're entering that kind of dull season where all I watch is American Ninja Warriors, last night that is my obsession. And I couldn't make it past the first one, but I love watching that thing. And I never, ever, ever see the last episode of that.
Never.
Ever. I never know if anybody won or if it's just that whole thrill of the hunt. But last night I decided I was going to binge something because I've heard too much about it, and that's Jury Duty.
Okay.
Have you heard of Jury Duty?
I've been called for jury duty, but I've never served on jury duty, but
It's a reality show where everybody in the show except one guy is an actor. So there's this one guy, it's kind of a punk thing where they are trying to, show how he would react during this situation. How he doesn't catch on, I don't know. But James Marsden is in it as one of the people called to jury duty. And he's kind of an elevated sense, aspect of himself. You see this kind of full of himself actor who has third tier credits that they mention. Very funny. And I was smitten with it. It's not necessarily well done, but there are so many moments that are such laugh out loud, funny moments that you've got to see it. It's on Amazon Prime.
okay.
And Freebie had it first, and I think you can find it through Amazon. But it's 8 episodes, and it's like eating candy. And I had such a great time looking at that then you go to the next dig where you try to look up these people online to see if you've seen them in something else. Because some of the actors looked vaguely familiar. And I think if I were that one guy, the first question I would have is, why are we sequestering the jury for this little kind of 2-bit case? Why are we here for 15 days or whatever the amount of time was? But they don't seem to question it. It's like, well, I got a vacation and I'll be doing this, and here we are. And then when they start spilling out the case and the guy who's, defending the guy drops everything, the audio visual stuff doesn't work, I would be very curious, like something's up with this. And then I would look in my hotel room and think, I think that place is bugged. It's got to be bugged somehow. But do watch it, because I think it is one of those kind of fun little summer things that takes no effort out of you. You don't feel like you're worn out after you've watched it. You do feel like it's something that you go, okay, I had a good time.
I love those little ones. They'll pop up on Netflix here and there, or Hulu or Prime, as you said. There's no effort. There's no thought process. I like there's a few of them that'll show up on Netflix. They'll do those little documentaries, like the kid that wanted to buy the Harrier jet with the Pepsi points, and they did 4 episodes on it, and I couldn't stop watching it because it's just a fun little romp. So
I'm into Selling Sunset on Netflix. That's at, Los Angeles area high-end real estate show. And it looks like this 2-bit little real estate office on the Sunset Strip. It looks like, you could have a 7-Eleven next door. That's how dinky it looks. And yet they act like they are all, catering to everybody who starts at $1 billion. And they basically seem to show the same house. It's like the same kind of, or else all the houses in Los Angeles look alike. But Selling Sunset is another one of my binge crazes like that, where you don't think, and I think I need that after work, is where you don't think at all, and you let these people kind of just wash over you. Yep. So to make a reality show, remember, no thinking, wash over you.
There you go. Anything else you're watching, or any movies on the horizon?
Well, there are some things coming up I've been looking at, but not yet to tell. Not yet to tell. And they had the big premiere last night of Indiana Jones. And so we're going to start hearing a lot about that. if you haven't Barbied yourself already, please get onto one of those apps and you can put your picture inside a thing where it calls you a Barbie of some sort.
Nice.
So that's out there in case you're looking for fun.
Elemental. Have you seen Elemental, or is that's about to come
Elemental. Out? No, I did go last week to Transformers, and I will admit it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Okay. I'm still not going to see it.
No, what it does though, they make no sense. They absolutely make no sense. And it started out with a toy that made no sense. And then they decided there was a film franchise. But in this one, they kind of back up and give you a little history about the things and why they are what they are and how they came into being and why they want to dominate the world. So there's a little kind of a tutorial, if you will, that helps you understand this. And then they go on their little journey and transform into gorillas this time.
Okay.
And that is Optimus Primal, not Optimus Primate, but Optimus Primal.
Interesting. I am looking forward to Indiana Jones. We've talked about this a few times. That I've been hearing reviews very mixed. Like some people are loving it, some people not so much. So I'm really curious to see where that one falls. I could see that one getting very mixed reviews from critics, but doing very well with fans also.
It's critic proof. This is like one of those things that no matter how much people rant and rave, they're still going to it.
Absolutely.
And I'm dying to see it.
As soon as I can get to it, I am absolutely going to go see it. I'm just like a hardcore Lucasfilm, Indiana Jones, Star Wars junkie. So I will be there. Absolutely. Somewhere
I have a whip and a hat.
Exactly.
And that's from one of the earlier ones. That's in my basement full of crap. You'll find it out there. If you ever want to excavate, that can be your Indiana Jones story. You go down there, dig out that stuff, and go, here's that whip he was talking about. Yep, there's a whip down there. But you're going to see Elemental this weekend.
I am. Yeah.
For Father's Day. I love the idea that you get to pick the movie.
I know. Well, the options were, hey, Dad, what would you like to do this weekend? And I'm thinking, I'm not sure. And then when my daughter says, well, let's go see Elemental. So I'm, okay, that sounds fine. The other option was Little Mermaid. And that was a hard pass on that one. And the Barbie movie isn't out yet, which I kind of want to see that.
You want to see that.
I want to see that one. So, and I told him, I said, I will absolutely go with you to go see the Barbie movie. But Elemental, I feel like you can't usually go wrong with a Pixar movie. I love most of them. They've been a little bit more missed than hit the last couple years, but and they did just fire a whole bunch of Pixar people, like long time Pixar people. Disney.
So that would be a great opening, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Welcome back. You'll have to pay for your own popcorn.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know if you saw that, Bruce, but Disney, because they've been cutting down because the revenues haven't been quite there, and they wiped out a huge chunk of the Pixar department, and it included a lot of folks that had been there from the beginning. Even
they had a whole studio in Orlando that if you went to the Hollywood Studios aspect of Disney World, you could watch them making, God knows what, but it was animated films, and they were actually doing the work there. And then they shut that one down, and they shut some other ones down, and then they went over to another country, did things there. So who knows with that? And they almost shut it down before the original Little Mermaid came out. So it's hard to tell. I'm sure somebody in the money department looks and says, I think we need to make some cuts here. And the lowest profit area was... And that's where they go.
Exactly. There is another program coming out soon. Now, you have not gotten any advanced screening of this, but you and I both a bit of a fan of the show, The Bear, season 2, coming to FX and Hulu. Tell you,
I have talked to people about The Bear. I have done interviews for The Bear. I've written a story about the upcoming Bear, but they are very guarded about season 2. They are not letting out any kind of screeners. Now, that always is a bad sign when you do that with a movie. If you don't let anybody see it in advance, it's like, we're worried about the kind of reviews we might get. But I think this one, because they've got really great people working on it, I think what it hinges on is what this new restaurant is. Because if you may remember, this is spoiler alert, so turn me off. they found a lot of money at the end of the episode, the final episode of last season. So they have the money to be able to make upgrades to this the beef or whatever it's called restaurant, so that it's not just kind of a hit and run sandwich shop. It's much more than that. And I think they don't want you to know what it's going to look like. I don't think they want you to know how the plot is going to unfold. And I can still see chaos in the kitchen. It'll still be there. But it's that kind of surprise element that they want to save. And that premieres next week.
Yeah, it's it looks like maybe the 22nd on FX, and then a day later on Hulu. I got into the show pretty hardcore last year. I didn't see it when it dropped immediately, but my brother reached out, one of my brothers who's a chef, and he said, and that's how this always works. Like, I go see the journalism things, and then, he goes, sees the food ones, but he's like, hey, it's
boring, don't watch them.
Yeah, right? Exactly. But he thought it was really good, and just mentioned, hey, if you're looking for something to check out, watch it. And I got hooked pretty hard. Now, I found with the show that I couldn't watch really more than one episode, because by the time I picked it up, season 1 was already done. So, but I couldn't binge it because I would get through one episode and there's so much yelling because it's in a kitchen. There's a lot moving on, and they're yelling at each other, and they're bickering because they're family or longtime friends and that kind of thing. And I just felt exhausted, like emotionally drained by the end of it. But it's a comedy.
But it's a good feeling.
But it's a good feeling. Yeah. Like it wasn't a horrible drain. Like, I'm never going to come back to this. It just felt like, I gave this show my all for 30 minutes of sitting here doing nothing. And I just can't go anymore. I need like a 1-day buffer before I come back on episode 2.
Well, and this was one of those COVID shows that they were in a bubble and they weren't able to do a lot of, exterior things, a lot of stuff outside of their little bubble. So they stayed in it, and they had a culinary producer, somebody who showed them how to do like chopping, or where you would grab for a bowl, or where pots and pans needed to be located. So if your brother has a lot of like technical knowledge about all those things, it was absolutely technically correct. And they all felt that they had some degree of facility with all of that. But what the goal of the producer was to throw you into that atmosphere so you didn't know anything. So that's why you felt the tension, is because you felt like you were right in the middle of that kitchen and all that trouble happening. And one thing that he discovered while he was like, planning all of the show, is that there were a lot of times he would order Uber Eats, and then it would be like, you can't. What is this? And that figured into one of the episodes where, suddenly they get a jillion orders at once, and they can't keep up with it. And so they'll just turn off that app and they won't come. So that was a surprise to me when I first saw that. Wait a minute, is this why I'm not able to order at 7:00 at night? They've shut me off. That's what the trick is. So there are a lot of things that we can learn in the process of this, but it also makes you very appreciative of what goes into a kitchen, I think.
I saw Bob Odenkirk is listed as a guest star for season 2. I don't know in what capacity, because obviously they won't screen it, but coming off of Better Call Saul, I guess he's looking for work.
He is, and he had the Lucky Hank.
Yeah.
He's getting all over the place. And that will be, by the way, if we want to jump ahead to that concept, they're really doing a lot of pitches for what will be nominated for Emmys, because the Emmy Awards will be coming out pretty shortly, the nominations. And will Better Call Saul get something in its last season? Because it's been really cheated a lot. But will The Bear get something? That's another one, because technically it's classified as a comedy, but it plays really dark. And then you have ones like Ted Lasso, who supposedly are wrapping it up. Do you give them one more shot? So there are a lot of questions that are rolling around the Emmys right now.
Well, we'll have to come back at that as soon as the nominations come out.
2 new movies. We have Elemental and we have The Flash coming out this weekend. You could have picked The Flash.
I could have.
And you didn't.
Kids didn't want to go see that one.
Well, I think there are some parts that maybe you'd go, kids, maybe we shouldn't be watching this.
Probably, yeah. And
Yeah.
they wouldn't understand the Michael Keaton aspect of it either.
Right. Who's
They're
that
not
old
going to
guy?
get excited. Yeah, who's that old guy? That's
Why is it an old
Batman.
Batman?
Yeah.
It's not Batman. That's somebody else. I think Superman might be in it.
Yeah.
Not going to say, but yeah, so there are those. So Elemental's all fresh and new, and it's not unlike Inside Out, which took on emotions.
Right.
And this is another one where it's elements. So air, wind, water, all that is kind of swirled together into one thing about learning something from yourself. I don't know. Good luck.
Thanks.
This better be a popcorn movie.
I'm bringing back the bucket. Remember, I bought my annual bucket.
That will give you popcorn galore.
Exactly. I'm coming back with my refill and everything. So that's my Father's Day.
Your Jurassic Park bucket.
Exactly. So that's my Father's Day. So we also figured for this week, we're going to talk a little bit about Father's Day. So we're going to just kind of segue from that theme over to the big day and talk a little bit about some of our favorite fatherly figures from TV and movie history. What do you got for us?
Well, whenever you say, who is the best father in film, it goes to one and one only. Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird is, bar none, the best dad of all times in films. That's what, whenever they survey people, and it may be because that's the one they remember most. There are others. There are many, many others. Field of Dreams. You could just go down the line, but I think Atticus Finch is the one that people are most tied to in terms of father. Do you agree with me, or am I?
It has been so long since I've seen that movie. I don't know if I can agree. I've seen it. I've absolutely seen it. It's just been so long now.
And it's been on a theater tour because it was on Broadway several years ago. And Richard Thomas from the Waltons is playing Atticus Finch. And, it's one of those cases where dad tries, it's, set years and years and years ago, tries to convince his children that, maybe sometimes the people that you suspect are right aren't necessarily right. And then they rewrote brought out an earlier version of the book, and that had a different take on things. But it's Gregory Peck. Come on, Gregory Peck.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong. Gregory Peck has always, and maybe he felt that was limiting too in the later films he made. He did MacArthur after that. So there are all these kind of larger than life real heroes. I think he played Lincoln at one point. And so I think that kind of dogged him, if you will. But he was like the perfect dad. Now, who did you think was a great movie dad?
A great movie dad for me, you had mentioned Field of Dreams, and I always kind of come back to that movie. It's that movie about fathers and sons, relationships. It's a movie that I watched just a few days after my dad passed away earlier this year. And it's something that we watched because he died in March, right around the start of the baseball season. It's a movie I go back to year after year. And I also think, for myself, as somebody who's in his upper 40s and getting a little bit older, but I have kids, and it's a little bit of a midlife crisis kind of movie too. It's
Sure.
You're maybe in that job which isn't as fulfilling as you thought it was going to be, or you're not progressing through life. You had all these dreams as a kid. You wanted to be a baseball player or a movie star or a rock star, or maybe just be sitting on a pile of cash doing whatever. And here he's just an average guy farming, and he's having a midlife crisis and trying to find a way to reconnect his dad. So, Kevin Costner, I thought, really did a great job of that role. It's one, as I said, I go back to that year after year after year to watch it, and I get choked up every time I watch it at the end when he's just going out to play catch with his dad.
Yeah, it's a toucher. It can really get you when you need that. But there are other ones, Clark Griswold. Yeah. He's a fairly good dad. Come on, he's trying to give his family the kind of vacation that they've always wanted. Yeah, things go wrong, but his intentions as a father are good, I think.
Yes.
Then you go to Steve Martin from Father of the Bride. He wants to make sure all of that pulls off all right. You have the dad from Mrs. Doubtfire, Mr. Mom, Finding Nemo.
Yeah,
On,
that's a good one.
there are good dads in there. The one that I hadn't really thought of recently, Minari. Do you remember that? Did you see Minari, about a family that moves to they're in an Asian family that moved to the Midwest, and they're farming and everything kind of goes wrong, but the dad wants to make sure everything is right. It won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, woman who plays the grandmother. And that dad was a good dad. You know, Ethan Hawke in Boyhood, if you remember that.
Oh, that movie. Yeah.
Right? And then we get to The Godfather. Come on. Can you be better than The Godfather?
Very overly protective dads there.
There's one that, you touch my kid, I kill you.
That's well, and even the Godfather Part 2, when Michael Corleone slams the door, not even a slam, it's just more of a hard shut on Diane Keaton. Like, I'm the dad, the kids will stay here. You've made your choice. Yep. And
Parenthood, if you're familiar with that. And then one that's going to cross over now when I talk about this is Friday Night Lights.
The movie?
Taylor, the coach. Now, in the movie, it was Billy Bob Thornton, but in the TV series, you cannot get better as a dad than Eric Taylor. He was a dad to all those kids on the team. And I kid you not, that is one of those shows that I have the entire box set that I will, if I need to, can go back to that because it's so inspirational. And it's one that I can't watch the end because I don't want it over. But they talk all the time about rebooting it. Like there might be a class reunion with that. But Eric, there are 3 Taylors in TV that you want to think about: Tim Taylor, Andy Taylor, and Eric Taylor. Okay? Andy Griffith. Come on. Andy Taylor was the best dad from my childhood. He was always so protective, so fun, so willing to do whatever. Great. Tim the Toolman Taylor. Come on. He was like the fun dad that you could play with. Right. And then we get to my Eric Taylor from Friday Night Lights. Those are 3 big TV dads that resonate.
The John Hughes dads too, because we've talked about John Hughes movies previously. The Dan Aykroyd and John Candy in The Great Outdoors, just constantly trying to one up each other, or at least John Candy just trying to keep up with Dan Aykroyd.
Right.
That was always fun. And trying to eat the 96-ounce steak.
Right. Right.
There's nothing on that plate but fat and grizzle.
And then you look at the bad dads, ones we find on TV. Homer Simpson, come on. Does it get worse than Homer? I don't know. Red Foreman from that 70s show.
Oh.
He was kind of always grumpy and barking orders at people. And you know one dad that I really hated? Mike Brady from the Brady Bunch. That
Mike
dad,
Brady.
Anything. He just sat there and he was like doing architecture stuff. Well, the kids were whatever. But I really thought he was a bad dad if you were picking them out. And more recently on TV, Jack Pearson is a good dad.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
This Is Us.
This Is Us. Yes. He is that all-American dad. Everything is always positive. Can't do anything wrong.
And he would be willing to go to the ends for anyone. I don't know that we ever saw him bad in the course of that series.
No.
I mean, he might have done things that were like, but I don't think you could ever classify him as a bad dad.
Still makes me nervous every time my wife pulls out the crock pot, though.
Yeah, don't. We're out of the house. You know, I think did the crock pot people get mad about that?
They were so angry. It's safe. It's safe. It's a slow cooker. It's fine. Oh man, you know who I always loved for. There's a couple of dads. Now I wouldn't necessarily call them good dads, but they were just, to me, very entertaining TV dads. Frank Costanza by Jerry Stiller from Seinfeld, and then the relationship between Ray Romano, Peter Boyle on Everybody Loves Raymond. I thought that connection was just really, especially coming up from a New York background, the complaining about everything and just a very relatable relationship for me.
You know, it's funny because in the new series Bupkis with
Mhm.
Pete Davidson, he kind of has this thing, you know, in real life, he lost his dad in 9/11.
Right.
He had this kind of projection, if you will, with Ray Romano and Everybody Loves Raymond. And you see kind of a sense of that in this show. And Ray Romano does a kind of a cameo bit in the thing, but it is interesting. What about Phil Dunphy from Modern Family? Isn't he like every dad who tries too hard?
Yes. I never could quite figure out if I liked him or not through the whole series. Like there would be some weeks where you just love Phil Dunphy, but then other weeks where it's just so ridiculous that I couldn't put up with him. And that was a show too. I love Modern Family. I don't think I watched the final season. I think I kind of tapped out.
Oh no.
Yeah, like it
Yeah.
hit that it hit that point where I saw enough, and it was kind of the same thing for me episode after episode where it just kind of lost me that last year, and I just said, I'm good. We peaked.
Yeah. Is there a dad that you relate to? What kind of a dad are you?
I'm not Darth Vader, that I know. Um,
Yet.
Not yet. Who am I? I do think I am a little bit of a Ray Kinsella. I'm not ready to
Okay.
dig up my backyard yet, but
Right.
I feel like I'm kind of in that point in my life where things aren't always what they were meant to be, and I've had to go through some changes here and there, and
You know, this has always been my theory because I'm so old that I can have that Yoda like turnabout experience. In your 20s, anything's possible.
right.
In the 30s, you realize I got to get something done or else I'm going to be kind of wasting this life. 40s, you feel like, oh, did I make a mistake and go the wrong way? Should I regroup and start over? 50s, you think, you know what? I don't care. I have made my point. And in the 60s, you're just glad you're around.
So I'm
Oh,
still
you're
here.
okay. But it's that kind of, and it's like class reunions where you go, well, I've got to prove to them that I've done something or, whatever. And you find usually if you go to a class reunion, you'll find that the person that you really didn't see as the most successful is the most successful. It could have been the kid who was quiet in the back, got C's and didn't really cause a wave. And the one that you thought was the most likely to succeed maybe didn't. But look at those years and see if you don't agree with me on that, because I found that in the 20s you were just like, oh, I can have fun, but I better hurry up because I've got to do something with my life so that it makes sense. And that's the 30s where you're like all freaked about what it is. And then the 40s, you're settling for a little something. And then, like I say, the 50s and 60s, well, we don't care. And you can easily badmouth people in the older years too. That's always good.
I've got a couple years still until I hit my 50s, but I'll give that some thought for
just know that that's where you're heading.
years.
It's so great where you don't give a damn. I love that. And I can hardly wait until it's the unfiltered years, the 70s and the 80s, when I can just say whatever I think about somebody and not worry about it. Let it go.
Yeah, that's my grandfather who's 93, my last living grandparent, and he just doesn't care. He just totally unfiltered.
Yeah, but they go, you look a little fat, don't you? And you go, wait a minute, you're not supposed to say that. You're supposed to be nice, right?
Oh, yeah. I remember even with my in-laws, one of my wife's grandmothers who passed away a number of years ago, one of the last times I saw her before she passed away, she's like, "You've put on some weight since the last time I saw you." And I'm like, okay, we're good here.
If a whale came in the room, you wouldn't say those kind of things, right?
I know. Yep.
You'd say, oh my God, in your head, this one really looks like it got out of hand. But in your mind, oh, you look like you're so healthy and you're having such a good time. How are things going? That's what I'm waiting for, is the unfiltered, I'm just saying it like it is. So You look marvelous, Terry. You
Thank
look,
you. I appreciate it. One last father on my list that we didn't
yeah,
touch on, Tony Soprano.
yeah. And is he a good dad? I don't know that he is.
I think he's very protective of his family. I also thought, he was a great dad when he took Meadow up to New England to go looking at colleges, and he was very much wanted to make it a dad-daughter weekend, help her find a school. He found a rat, he took care of that, cleaned himself up after the murder, and then went ahead and finished a very nice weekend with his daughter. So I think he could have a moment there. He took care of business, but also took care of family at the same time.
Don't you think that his wife had a stronger influence on the kids than he did?
Yes and no. I think that Carmela and there are all these similar types of movies and shows that get into that mafia stuff. It's always the same where they try to paint the spouse as kind of like, some unwitting bystander, but they're fully
They know
into
everything.
it. They know everything.
But
She knows where the guns are hidden in the wall. So
here it's like the Real Housewives of New Jersey. As much as they act like they don't know what's going on in their businesses, they're right there. And when they go to court, they're just as guilty as the husband. So
I've probably seen every episode of The Sopranos at least 3 times because I watched it when it came out initially. And then I also, a long time ago, was writing a weekly column for newspapers in New Jersey with my thoughts about The Sopranos each week. So I'd watch it then. And then a few years ago, I actually rewatched the whole series again. And I thought it held up, other than the flip phones, the cell phone technology changed. But I thought by and large, the show itself held up very well. It was always the same thing with Carmela, where she would get angry, Tony, you got to change, and then he would show up with a Porsche Cayenne or a diamond necklace, and then she's like, "I love you, Tone," and then it would totally change her demeanor for about 3 episodes, and then it would kind of go back in the other direction.
See, that's the secret. That's the secret that a father learns about a mother.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
Okay, Red Foreman was a loud, mouthy one, but then you get to Ward Cleaver. What in the hell did Ward Cleaver ever do?
He put on a suit, he went to work, and he came home.
And then he was served a drink or whatever, and he read the newspaper and had to be kind of the judge of the kids when, oh, you better go see your father. And then he would kind of like take an eyebrow to them and well, now, Beaver, what happened today? That kind of stuff. Well, Warren Cleaver was a big fake. He did nothing. So yet he gets on the list of the best dads. And then I'd be remiss not to mention Cliff Huxtable.
Oh yeah. I didn't know what to do with him.
What I loved it. Well, now we're doing the character, not the
person. Yes.
All right. But what I loved about Cliff Huxtable is that the kids tried to schmooze him. And, they would try to use that, oh, Dad, you're just so wonderful. And you kids are just stupid. He would just call them out on things. And it was a dad who was onto them. And I don't think we had seen dads who were onto their kids and how they just kind of work their wiles. Because I'll bet any money that your daughters work you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
And yet here was a dad who said, no, I'm not buying into that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what, his job, well, what exactly was it that he did because he stayed at home all the time? But I did enjoy watching that dynamic. I liked the dynamic. And then the wife who had the upper hand on him was an interesting kind of dynamic, I thought. Walter White, can he be considered a good dad or a bad dad?
I don't know. I wasn't sure if I wanted to put him on my list or not. On one hand, I thought he was, he's thinking about himself. He's presumably terminally ill, and he's looking out for the long-term good of his family. But he also had a lot of flaws in his planning and execution.
Can bad equal good? I don't know. That's one of those things. All right, then what about the monster dads like Gomez Adams or Herman Munster?
They were fun dads.
Do they fit in there? Do they, and I didn't see any kind of parenting that went on with them.
No, there was none. I think I preferred Gomez Adams though as a father.
Yeah, Herman was stupid.
Yeah.
And he was just kind of bumbling around, which isn't unlike a lot of them. Currently, we've still got Dan Connor on the Connors, and he has changed over the years.
I've probably seen 2 episodes total. I think I watched maybe 1 episode when they rebooted it as the new Roseanne show, and then not long ago, just almost by accident, I kind of watched a bit of a episode of the Connors, and it was fine. I liked him as a dad in the original series, but I also thought he was a classic blue collar.
Right.
Do we know what he even did? I don't even remember, but he was a working man's dad.
He worked at some kind of factory, plant, whatever it was.
But he was a solid Midwest working dad.
He would make sure they stayed afloat no matter what. If it meant that he had to do another job or had to do something else, they were going to stay afloat. And I like that. He did indulge Roseanne in her kind of pipe dreams, which was interesting. But I think things are a little back to normal with the new series. I don't know. But how about Full House?
Danny Tanner.
Yeah.
He was a little too upbeat for me. I don't know. That the show was fun to watch as a kid. My daughters watched that show on
the
streaming.
Fuller House version?
No, we turned on Fuller House for about 30 seconds and then flipped it off. And I at the time when it came out, we thought it was a little too grown up for my kids. Also, they could probably watch it now. They watched the original series front to back and loved it. When it aired originally, I enjoyed it. I watch it now, and the shows to me are very tough to watch because I think it's not realistic. Like, you can afford this house. It's probably $8 million in San Francisco. Your buddies are living with you.
What's that all about?
It was a strange, in retrospect, a very strange show to me. A lot of memories with those characters, but yeah.
Well, and then more recently, Blackish, Dre. Interesting, but I found that he yelled a lot. And I
did not watch that show, so
yeah, I thought he yelled too much for his own good.
Okay.
And was always kind of flustered, and I didn't really care for that. I like Anthony, though. I think he's a great actor, but I don't know that he was more in the line of George Jefferson. Want to be honest about all that? And and so right now, I don't know that there is a dad like Jack Pearson where you would go, okay, that's our big TV dad right now.
What about All in the Family? There's a classic TV dad for you.
Yeah, and I don't know that he was really that fatherly.
No.
He didn't think Meathead was good enough for his daughter.
Right.
So, I mean, he's protecting his daughter, but I don't know that he ever did anything, particularly, I don't know, dad-like.
No.
He didn't help out when he was in Archie's place, but I don't think he's considered a dad at all.
No, I think that's more of the show is, with the Archie Bunker character, very groundbreaking for the time, to tackle issues with race and all of that during the 70s. But beyond that,
it does a great job of capturing. I mean, I don't think those episodes could ever run today because there would be too much political discourse about the points that they take. But it is fascinating when you look at them in retrospect and you think, my God, these were things that were being thrown out on the television airwaves when we were just, I guess, naive.
Yeah, a lot has changed since then. That is
I don't know that you could do it. Is that the list?
Yeah, I think that's about it on my list. You covered a lot of ground there. I had a few on mine. Again, Darth Vader, not the best dad. He did try to reconcile with his son at the end.
Okay, but now think about this. were we just duped into thinking he's bad because of the perspective we got? Or was he just bad?
You sound very Obi-Wan Kenobi there. It's from a different point of view.
Right. I mean, from his perspective, he was probably a great dad.
Yeah. He slaughtered all the younglings. That's all we know. He went into the Jedi temple and...
What you won't do for your kids, right?
I know, right? Exactly.
We're going to go refill that bucket, though.
That's right.
In the middle of Elemental, when you think, oh, I can't watch this anymore, you go back and get an extra fill.
I am looking forward to my popcorn. Anything on the horizon, Bruce, before we sign off?
You know, I really do want to dig into The Flash. So if you get a chance, zip over to The Flash and see that, because that has been such a troubled film all during its duration. And now let's see if the hype actually, if that was part of the hype, or if indeed this was that film that had to be released because it is so great. So if you get a chance, please see that, and we'll talk The Flash next week, because I really want to know where you sit on it.
I'm going to try to get there because my family is heading out of town, but I'm sticking around. So maybe I will have a date evening with me, myself, and I. And
there you go. And bring the bucket.
And I absolutely bring in the bucket. All right, Bruce, thanks again for another episode.
Well, Tara, happy Father's Day, too, and have lots of fun. And to all the fathers that listen out there, or the fathers that want to be fathers, or whatever it might be, happy Father's Day.
Blue Ridge Hospice thrift shops are bigger and better than ever, with a new and expanded site at one of our 2 Winchester locations and our 6 well-established boutiques across the area. Blue Ridge Hospice thrift shops attract bargain hunters, treasure seekers, collectors, and antiquers. Mention this ad on your next shopping trip and receive a 10% discount. Blue Ridge Hospice thrift shops gratefully accept your donations, including electronics and furniture. For locations, hours, and information on how to donate, please visit blueridgehospice.org.